I gotta watch my words here because I know the Warriors are going to smash me for this. But so there was carbon bars that were, rigid, and you would feel it big time. And because the brand equity of that brand was very high, there would be customers or riders that'd be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It's great. I love the logo. It's sick. This is the best bar ever. And and then you put it on a test rig and you're like, ooh, you never see a person on a two-wheeled machine with a frown on their face hating life. Like, what have we as an industry done wrong not to keep the ridership that flooded into the market? So those people all bought bikes. They all created demand. What did we do wrong not to keep them? And I think that's...
Dustin Adams, welcome back to the Downtime podcast, man. It has been quite a while since we last chatted, like in the thick of COVID, really. September 2020, I think, was the last time we did an episode together. How have you been?
Wow. Yeah, it's been a long time. Thanks for having me back on. It's good to see your face again and to chat. Lots changed. Been busy, been working on lots of projects, and trying to continue to make a positive change for manufacturing in North America.
Yeah, and it seems to be going pretty well. Let's dig into some of that stuff that you've been up to since we last chatted. And we'll start off with the bike, because I think the last time we spoke, you were getting to the point where you were starting to realize just quite how much you'd bitten off doing this bike project, and like how big a deal it was to get a bike out there, which is super interesting. I think you were going back to the drawing board on a few elements. You were very much keen to make sure this thing was perfect before it went out there. Just give us a bit of an update on like how that project kind of ended up coming to fruition and the arrival coming to market, because I think it's been a huge deal for you guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the largest engineering exercise and exercise of patience and determination I think I've ever been through in my life, and I think a lot of the team as well. It's a big project. I mean, we funnel a lot of sweat equity into it, and a lot of time and energy and smart decision making and challenges across all of it. I keep on going into the bookstore looking for the how to make a carbon frame for dummies, and I still can't find it. So maybe we got to write one. But I mean, there was no recipe, there was no direction, and we had to make a ton of mistakes in order to learn how to do it correctly. But the outcome we're really excited about. I mean, the product really does shine. We've seen very little issues in production once the bike's underneath the customer. Nothing we can't resolve, and nothing of scale. And it continues to really, really impress our customers. We've had people that say they bought a bike every year, every couple of years, and they're like, I don't need to, and I don't want to. I'm really happy with the arrival and the platform. And we've had lots of customers go up and down in the travel settings, from the 152 to the 170, or even down to the 130. And it's providing a lot of value for customers once they've made the purchase. But yeah, making it was tough. I mean, we didn't have a test facility in-house. We've since developed that. We developed a new test standard as to how to test the bike and proof out our concepts. There's a lot of challenges in how to bladder mold very complex parts. We learned a lot about tooling. We've had tooling iterations. How tools should come together to be most effective, and we've changed a few of those processes along the way. Engineering laminates, how we can do it faster, as effective, and get the same result as the best result we've ever achieved, or even improve on it if possible. Working with new materials, core materials, expanding materials, pivot materials, a lot of that stuff has been an iterative process. And we got to the finished point. I think the one thing we've done really successfully is we made sure that all of that learning was done before the customer received the first bike. So that's one thing that we really take pride in here at We Are One, and I think the result shows for sure.
Yeah. Do you think, like, irrespective of the fact that you've got a bike at the end of this thing that you can like ride and enjoy, and that you can sell to other people to enjoy, do you think the R&D project, the research that you've basically done creating that thing, has been like a big level up for the whole business, for like your ability to work with, tooling, with carbon, with all of that kind of stuff? It feels like you've learned a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, making a rim is very complex in its own right, in its own manner. Same with a handlebar. I still will hold true that a handlebar is the hardest carbon fiber part to make, period. Effective and also repeatable. But the frame was the most complex for sure. There's a lot of moving parts. A lot of things have to fall in place in order of operations for it to be repeated. SOPs and ply manuals and ply schedules and a lot of the some manufacturer scaling documentation that goes along with such a huge project is a massive undertaking. Let alone just taking the bike, putting it into a mold, taking it out of the mold and sanding it and painting it and getting it ready for the customer and assembling it. The back end work was a huge learning lesson for tracking, documentation, quality control along the process, stuff like that. Checking, making sure everything's right the whole way along, and catching things before you spend too much time realizing that part maybe is a failure and needs to be scrapped.
Yeah. So maybe like a painful project at points in time, but something that's ultimately benefited the entire business.
Yeah, I mean that's an understatement. Painful. It was a lesson of banging your head against the wall for 2 years. There's a lot of very, very lows, very frustrated moments, tempers flared, and tools flew. But that's something when you undertake something like this, that's just accepted as part of it. Like I say, there's no handbook. There's no person we could have hired that had the experience and was ready to rock. I mean, aside from Vlad, who brought a good level of knowledge to make R&D samples and test samples, but as far as scaling this sucker out, this has never been done by anybody. So now that we know it and have that knowledge, we feel no fear going forward or hesitation moving forward to attempt something even larger or grandiose, so above a bike frame.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Was it pretty emotional then, finally kind of getting it out there and getting it in other people's hands? It must have felt pretty special.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was a huge achievement from the company and for everybody that was involved. And I think every day we pinch ourselves when we see someone ride by or drive by with one in their vehicle. And we successfully put our 1,000th frame into the market a month and a half ago, and we're just really excited to achieve that kind of a milestone from nothing. So yeah, it's a huge success for everyone that was involved, and for me personally, I feel really proud of what we've achieved as a team. I never would have dreamed of such an achievement or a part in my life. I always wanted to ride a bike I made, but I always thought that was going to be like a welded titanium or a steel bike. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined where we are right now. So yeah, it's pretty emotional, and at times you catch me crying like a baby about the excitement, just the sheer magnitude of it all. It does trip me up for sure.
Yeah, well, the name Arrival sort of suggests kind of something was quite important about that for you guys. Like, it feels, that name has a weight to it, certainly for me anyway. It feels like a child being born kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was all of our, I mean, it's exactly it. It was our baby. We poured our heart and soul into it, and it had to arrive. And we'll see that name evolve as we go down too.
Nice. Do you think it's harder to get a bike out there, or at least get a bike out there successfully these days? Because certainly when I started riding, the bikes I grew up with, it was just kind of accepted that at some point you were going to break stuff, like frames got cracked, suspension blew up, things didn't work. Definitely kinematics and geometry were not amazing, and they've progressed, but it feels like the barrier to entry in the bike world now is a lot higher. It must be a big one to leap over that and get a bike out successfully. Yeah,
I mean, like anything, you need early adopters to take a material and to give it to the masses, be it right or wrong. I'm not here to judge. It's a challenge for everybody. Even if you were, bringing parts from overseas, they still had to learn how to do this. So I can appreciate that, and I respect everyone that has ever done such a thing. And it was because of them that they allowed this progression to happen so quickly. And I think we just happened to land in a time where the bar is set high, and we didn't want to just meet it; we wanted to surpass it. So that was the challenge. Is like, okay, bikes are fairly damn good right now, but we know we can do better. We got to take the time to figure out what that looks like, and we set a lofty goal. To have a bike last more than 10 years at minimum was our challenge, and I think through some very nagging and very careful, detailed analysis, and not accepting the status quo at any point, and always pushing for better. I think that's what the Arrival is.
Yeah, nice. And it's been a little bit quiet on the bike front for a while, but then recently we saw this We Are One downhill bike splashed across the internet, which I think got a few people revved up and excited. But my understanding is it's more of a kind of a test mule for componentry. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about the downhill project.
Yeah, it's a really cool project. So from the side view, you look at it and it looks like this, it looks like that, but it's really, really interesting. We took a front triangle of an extra large Arrival stock build, sectioned it off, and bonded in a new mid frame, which is the current downhill bike that you see there, and then we linkaged that up and paired it with an Arrival stock rear end on either a large or an extra large. We're testing all of it, but it was the quickest way for us to get a bike underneath us, start really learning about kinematics and kinematic values that work for downhill racing, or what's the difference between that and maybe riding in the park. It's someone who wants to ride a downhill bike just so they don't get beat up and they can ride the park all day long. What are they looking for? So geometry and kinematics, we needed a platform to really start messing with it. And if you really pay attention to how that bike is put together by Vlad and the team, and it gives us a massive platform to really start twisting knobs on one particular aspect of the kinematic or one particular aspect of the geometry, and doing back-to-back testing and seeing if the changes are tangibly felt by a high-level rider or a beginner or an entry-level rider or someone that's just kind of like getting into really tweaking with things. So we want to quantify what we do. So we couldn't do that with another person's bike. We needed a platform to mess with it, and also we needed a platform to push downhill developed products. We know we do well with enduro and like trail products and our rim side of things and our handlebars, but we don't have a platform to really push the levels of continuous fatigue and use that as a development tool. So yeah, it's an all-encompassing project that, there'll be a time when that bike becomes a bike. But for now, it's a learning tool, and it's an exercise in engineering for us, for sure.
Is it really just because you wanted a downhill bike again, Dustin?
Well, there is also that too. Yeah. No, if I was going to ride a bike at that point, it had to be something we could make. But yeah, that was a main motivator for a lot of us in-house here. We've got some pretty big downhill fans, me included, and Vlad's been wanting a downhill bike. He's been kind of sick of going to Whistler and pounding an Arrival into the dust every weekend, and just getting sore and beat up. So he wanted a downhill bike to play around on, and it was a pretty low cost exercise to get it there. So yeah, we're pretty stoked. It's a cool engineering exercise too. I mean, it's got a shock tunnel. We've never done a captive part before in a 3-dimensional manner like that. So this is a really good exercise right off the hop for the engineering team, and I think the deliverable is really amazing. It's actually a lot of fun to ride.
Nice. Well, yeah, you raced it recently, right? The Canada Cup.
Well, in a old man's category, yeah, I did take it down the hill and got a time. Yeah, it's the initial ride on it blew my mind, and I still can't quantify if it's modern bike and modern kinematics and modern suspension that gives you just an elevated experience that you've never thought possible. There's no way, even at my prime, I felt I was going as fast as I was the minute I hopped on this bike.
No way. And I guess we should say that you were an ex-World Cup racer at a pretty high level for people that haven't listened to earlier episodes with you. But yeah, just to quantify that, you know what going fast means, right?
I know that it's not the bike. Let's put it that way. Like, it's shocking to know there's so much more left in the tank. If I was just willing to let go of the brakes, and maybe my hand-eye coordination and timing was what it once was when I was in my early 20s, I would be fearful of how fast you could push this thing, and in a confident manner. It's never left me wondering like, oh God, this is uneasy. It's just planted and it goes, and it picks up speed at a rate that is scary. And that's what you want in a downhill race bike. Like, I'm not building a downhill race bike to make it comfortable. I wanted to win races, right? So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Exciting stuff, man. And so I guess, this downhill chassis enabling you to test downhill parts means that we'll be seeing some more like downhill focused product coming. I feel like you've kind of soft launched maybe that there's a direct mount stem that was shown on that bike, which has got this like a variable stiffness by swapping the halves. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, all of our cockpits are up for a revamp, and we're currently going through a pretty big engineering exercise on the downhill side of it. We firmly believe we've got a great new technology and design for a handlebar that we're proofing out. The stem is going to be the kind of it was the easiest, lowest hanging fruit to get to market. And it's got a really unique proposition matched with the bars. So that will be coming down the pipe, and it's a simple direct mount stem, but it's built in with some stiffness, what would you call tuning characteristics or tuning abilities that yet to launch. And I think once that whole line comes out, it'll be fairly unique, and it'll be a really solid project. Like, the product itself is great. We've been working with a lot of different materials in the handlebars and shapes and stuff like that, and I think we've landed on an amazing product that is extremely light and is well beyond what we had previously manufactured.
Okay, interesting. And you alluded to the fact earlier that handlebar is the most complicated thing to make from carbon. What is it about the bar that makes it so tricky?
It's probably the way we manufacture. So I think it's a handlebar isn't impossible. It's a big challenge, but the way we manufacture it to ensure we get very, very consistent results from bar to bar to bar, and ensure that we take people's lives and safety into context, and we really care about that. So we want to make sure we're going to put this on someone's bike. Like, failure is not an option, and to do that right and to get the results that we're getting, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. I developed the original laminate since or in our second iteration. That was a 6-month project just for myself to get the bar laminate to where I was able to repeat the consistency of the outcome. And it's I don't think it's for the faint of heart. I really don't. I think there's a lot of black magic that happens with the fiber that it isn't strain, it isn't compression. It's like there's a lot of tube strength, there's tubular movement, there's so much that happens, and orientation changes during a bar's movement and compression and flex, that there's nothing really else like it. It's unique, and it offers a very big challenge with the underside of the bar being in compression, top side being in tension. You take what carbon is really good for on the top, and you think you can just replicate it in a circular manner, and put it in the bottom, and it behaves completely poorly. So you have to do this fine balancing act of trying to figure out which laminate goes where, and which orientation you need, or maybe which fiber you need or material you need to make it a success. And that's that was a really, really tough challenge. And if we had not done that, I think making the actual tubular structure of a bike would have taken us a lot longer.
Interesting. So what you learned from doing the handlebar, the original, like the package bar and stem, you think helped you with the Arrival project and bike related work?
Absolutely. I mean, you work on connectivity, you work on, how shape change in design needs to be impacted by your fiber orientation, your laminate positioning, where your overlaps are, how your overlaps need to be, how much overlap you can have. There's so much that goes into it. It was key that we did that. I'm glad that we did learn that before we started the frame project.
Yeah, and the original package bar and stem, I think it was a 33 mil bar, wasn't it? Then with the shim around it to fit into the stem, which is why it's called the package, I guess. Is it right that you're going to be making some alternative shims for that bar so that people can run it in 31.8 or 35 mil stems as well soon?
Yeah, the package product itself, be it that we've maybe not. I'm more than likely, because we're not the best marketers, we're working on that. We've actually got a brand manager and a marketing department now, so hopefully the next product launch will be a lot more effective, and it has proven out. You see what happened on the last Arrival, but we didn't do a good job selling it, and the market hasn't really taken up to it. I think they're slowly catching on, but it's developed as a system. So a lot of people say, well, I don't like the looks of the stem or this or that, but it's an engineered project. So the stem needed to be very boxy and stiff laterally in order to get the bar to have the best characteristics out of the carbon fiber. You needed to isolate it. So the stem is stiff, the bar is not. If the stem isn't stiff and the bar is also got some movement, now you're having this accentuated feel. And what are you feeling? It becomes vague. And this was... I'm not saying we're right and everyone else is wrong, but for us, the best ride feel was what we've put to the market for that cockpit. And I think aesthetically, stems have become this jewelry or trinket that goes on bikes, and it's never really been designed or thought of as an engineered practice or engineered product to give you the best cockpit or ride feel out of your attachment to the bike, which is, you got 50% of your body's hanging off those bars, two hands and 2 feet. That's all you got. So you think that more people would pay attention to that, but the market just seems to think that I want to speak for the market. Sorry, I'll back that up. The market seems to appreciate a flashy stem with machined lines in it and a logo with no rhyme or reason around the design of benefit for the cockpit, which I scratch my head at, but I'm not the market. So long story short, with all of that, we've decided to take a knee, and we'll be offering a sleeve that goes over the bar so people can appreciate the bar with whichever stem they choose. And we will still then continue with the package as that like supremely engineered project where we feel is the best contact point for the riders.
Yeah, interesting. I'd say that goes as far as like the whole interface, the bar as well. To a greater extent, I don't think a huge amount of people appreciate yet how much impact the stiffness and the characteristics of that product can impact their riding. I think they might feel it, but they probably don't really realize necessarily where it's coming from in a lot of instances. I think the market is starting to change and starting to wise up more to like stiffness, and I think we used to think that stiff was good. And it was that simple, if that makes sense. Whereas I think that is starting to change, and especially with the ability Carbon has in frames, wheels, bars, etc., to tune that stiffness in multiple directions and conditions. And I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's stiffness is subjective in my opinion. You can put it onto a test rig and you can say anything you want, but it's very difficult for a test rig. I got to watch my words here because I know the Warriors are going to smash me for this. But so it's very difficult to get all of the frequencies that you feel through your hands on a handlebar onto a test rig and determine that one outcome is better than the other.
Yeah.
Because for one human, they might say, yeah, I agree. And the other one is like, no, it's crap. So your outcome, this is the beautiful thing about the making products, is you make it for what you as a company and you as an engineering team feel is the best outcome for the market.
Yeah.
And I've really wanted to hammer that home more and more over the last year and a bit, because I don't think anyone's doing anything wrong or poorly. It's just different. And they're making projects, and some people appreciate it, other people don't. And that's the cool thing about it. It's everybody's little spice of life here, right? And if it was just one project that was the best and that's it, it'd all be pretty boring. So, I feel like we are more in tune with it as an industry, because we're looking always for that next improvement, that next iteration of how to be better, or how the product could improve the rider's enjoyment on the bike. And I think stiffness is definitely coming into play. A tuned stiffness is tangible. You can feel it, but some people maybe can't. So that's why I say stiffness is subjective. There was carbon bars that were, rigid, and you would feel it big time. And because the brand equity of that brand was very high, there would be customers or riders that'd be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It's great. I love the logo. It's sick. This is the best bar ever. And and then you put it on a test rig and you're like, ooh. So you have, it's weird when you're on this side of the fence, you have tangible data, and then you have subjective outcome out there telling you that the tangible data is wrong. And you're like, what do we, so that's why it's completely subjective.
Yeah.
And you can't, I can't put out there every single bar study we've done with all of our competitors and then say, well, this is the outcome. And then what are you as a consumer supposed to be like? Well, I want what? Which one is right for you? Which one is better? Which one is wrong? There's no real way to say, right? So it depends on what people want. You got to offer, I think, a multitude of options, and that's why it's fun.
It is, yeah. There's always plenty of stuff to choose from whenever you're looking for new things for your bike. Along in the last year as well, you've made like a pretty major update to the wheel lineup, I guess, with the introduction of the Convergence wheels, which we've been lucky enough to have on the downhill bikes that we've been running for our little downhill racing project this year. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, as always, with We Are One wheels that I've had in the past, we've had no issues and been super happy with them. But yeah, tell us about that, because it's quite a departure from the design of the original wheel lineup. There's quite a lot of change there. You've obviously done some learning over the years and some serious kind of refinement into the Convergence lineup.
Yeah, it's a really fun project. When Vlad came on, I was very happy to finally have somebody to take my brain, my idea, my concept in my head that I had brewing. This has been an idea of mine since, I think, the first year of production of the Revolution. So we're going to say maybe 3 years ago, I had this idea that external shape drives internal shape, and the best way to solve this nipple articulation issue is to cant or angle the outside of the rim so that the carbon follows that shape internally, and it gets it perfectly perpendicular.
Can you just explain the nipple articulation issue in the first place, so just so people kind of understand what you're kind of battling with?
Yeah. I mean, so early, well, both the Revolution and the movement line, when you place a like we call it the nipple bed, or it's the carbon fiber package that makes up where the nipple hole is drilled. So, and it needs to be a certain thickness so that the nipple goes through, connects to the spoke, and it's right, or it's safe. That generally laid flat on the inside of the rim. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, if you drilled a 7.5 degree angle, it ran into a non-perpendicular surface on the inside of the rim. Yeah. So when you put a nipple in, it had to come up and then cant itself, and then it would point load on the opposing side of where the spoke was going. Yeah. So it stresses the system. Thank God Sapim makes like a fantastic nipple and a fantastic spoke. But over time, when the carbon rim goes, carbon rims have a memory. You can flex them out of out of position, but when they come back, nipples and spokes take up quite a lot of jarring and smacking. It will fatigue over time, and we were finding that after like a year of really aggressive riding or more, there was no like point in time, but after around a year, you would start to see, oh, I'm popping a spoke. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we'll replace that one. And then it was like, oh, I'm popping 4 spokes. And then we replace those 4. And then, 3 more. And then it was just like, okay, we've reached the fatigue life of those products. And we have to rebuild the wheel completely with spokes and new nipples. So what we're seeing is, because nipples and spokes haven't been right-sized for carbon rims and the amount of smacking and moving around, they're just the same nipple that we've always dealt with, and the same spokes, we'll see these fatigue cycles blow up. So I was thinking, like, how could we make this less point loaded on the nipples and spokes? Because you get this really like a cute looking bend that's not nice. It's like you can see it's forcing it over, and that's why the shape of the nipples are like bulbous, because they're meant to kind of like give a little bit of movement. It wasn't, I don't consider that a problem, but there was a room for improvement. And that's what the Convergence does. So it articulates in a manner from 7.5 degree on one side to 7.5 degree on the other side. So I just needed a guy that was as smart as Vlad to design the ID and connect it all together and be able to mold it. And I was lucky enough that he was able to help me get that project to the engineers so they could start working on the laminates.
Yeah, it's a pretty insane, like when you look at the rim itself, like the wiggle that it gives you, which I guess is the parting line of the tools. It must be really hard to make those things, like to cut the tools and get everything to fit super well. Because I know from the start you've always wanted your product to be like good, pretty much good to go from out of the mold. It doesn't have a load of like rework and polish and filler and all that kind of stuff added to hide any issues along the way. Like you want it out of the mold good, which must be tricky with those.
Yeah, well, we were very nervous about it because it does create quite a dainty parting line in the mold, and the parting line is still up and down in the mold, so that movement, you can see it. One mold half has another. And we were concerned that, like, during handling in the production, they would be easily damaged. Lo and behold, to us, because they're dainty, because they are a little bit more easily prone to damage, we found our staff actually cared more. And we've actually seen mold damage be reduced because of it. So,
no way.
Yeah, so it's a little bit harder to machine, definitely. It takes a little more time, but we also see a lot more mold uptime and a lot less mold damage because of it.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
Weird learning outcome, but we'll take it.
Yeah, there's more of a work of art feel, I guess, to those molds than maybe to the previous rim molds. Like they look they look special, right?
Yeah, they definitely do, for sure. I mean, you can see it when you put the two halves together. They got to mate perfectly, and the guys definitely take their time with it. And that was unbeknownst. That wasn't forced. They were just like, "Oh, this looks expensive and very, very dainty. We better be careful." And it's been working great, so we'll take it for now.
Nice. And you've pushed up impact strength and improved the ride feel as well with the Convergence wheels. Like, is that through just improved learnings along the way, or have you like used different laminates and layups? And
we've never stopped looking at what the best possible outcome for the most durable carbon rim product on the market is. I still, even though we did make a massive improvement, think that we've learned or are learning even more. Each day we're in the test facility working to improve it. I think that with some new onset materials that we're working with that improve some of the other weird reasons that these rims may fail, and also the matrices that we're playing with, that we still have a lot more to go, which is exciting. Even though each time we're wanting up, or going above and beyond where we were previously, I think that the ride feel of the Convergence is amazing. It's a nice damped ride feel that's confidence inspiring and also has the right stiffness in the right places. But I still know that we're going to make big moves on that design with the laminate here as we progress as well. So it's exciting times in the composites industry because aerospace has slowed quite a bit. Vendors are more willing to open up their book of tricks and work with the sporting goods side of things. So we've been having plus our volumes are way north of where they were when we started. So we're now a very serious customer, and if one of our vendors, our carbon vendors, loses us, it would be not it's not like losing Boeing, but it's enough business to make it not feel so good. So they want to work with us now, and we're having more meaningful discussions around composition and matrices and fibers and what they can do for us. And if we want something specifically designed and made, they're willing to enter into R&D. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, man. And I've spotted, at least on one occasion, a photograph from within We Are One with one of the team wearing a T-shirt with Kaizen written on the back of it, which is an ex-engineer, put a smile on my face. But for people maybe that don't know what Kaizen is, can you explain that, and why is that so important to you to bring that, I guess initially Japanese philosophy into the company?
Yeah, I would say we westernized the Japanese philosophy. So it's a beautiful thing. The culture needs to buy into it first and foremost. So we wanted to give our manufacturing employees, or any employee for that matter, the power to make decision and make change, recognize problems and fix them without any friction. And Kaizen was a fantastic tool that kind of laid out the, maybe not to the T, but the format that we would go about that. And in order to really hit home, we had to have the culture and the buy-in from the employees. So we started out with a cool I am Kaizen AF, I think it says. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of like all in like a samurai sword kind of font, but it was a fun way to get people engaged, and then training the managers and the production staff on how to go about it. And we've got a great Kaizen board going that we discuss every day. We've implemented a mandatory shift meeting every day where we discuss opportunities of improvement and projects we've been working on, all the way down to the shop floor and up to the top. And everybody is given the opportunity to be engaged and be involved. And we've done some pretty cool things. I mean, the Kaizen board is a 4x8 sheet of it's a laminate, and we write on there everything that we do every time we have a Kaizen victory or a win or something we're working on, and how things evolve. So there's some cool stories being told on there, and that 4 foot by 8 foot board is almost full of no space left in only it's actually almost a year, almost 12 months now. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Has that philosophy of continuous improvement, is that part of what's gone into this recent announcement? Like I saw across a lot of the websites recently, you lowered the prices of all your wheels, which is not something we're very used to seeing. Certainly not at the moment. We're seeing sales from brands because I think there's a lot of people flooded with stock, but this is very different. This is a permanent reduction in price. Where does that come from as a business?
Well, I mean, you make rims for, we're going on 6, almost 7 years now. Your processes improve, your people improve, your outputs improve. Everything along the way improves, and the market is needing some support. We felt that it was right for us to share that with the ridership out there and support them and get the best product and make it easier to obtain. And we know that we're still profitable doing that and allowing people to enjoy the product. you have to read the room and you have to see what's going on in the industry. And if you do right now, you know that it's not easy to sell product. And we don't have an inventory issue, and we still need to be relevant, and we would need to compete in this space. And we felt that this is the right thing to do. And we don't want to be known as a discount brand. And we would rather be known as the brand that supports the economy and the economic times, and we have the ability to do it, so we did.
Yeah, good on you. It's cool to see. And yeah, you allude to these like inventory issues that a lot of brands are facing. There's a lot of problems, I guess, with orders maybe being placed in the COVID boom with super long lead times, really like affected supply chains from everything that went on with COVID. Loads of crazy things happened. Loads of factories were shut for ages. Shipping prices went insane. Lead times went up. And a lot of that has kind of arrived now as demand has dropped off with like cost of living, all this kind of stuff. I guess like you guys from the very get-go like have managed the vast majority of your own supply chain. So you have control from making your own molds, doing all the build of the wheels in-house. Has that helped you through all of this, keep you in a better situation as a business?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I built. I wanted something that wasn't part of global economics, and it wasn't affected in a sense that it would bury us if we got caught up in such a thing. And we knew all along this was coming. Greed got the best of us as an industry and as a whole, and now we're paying for it. Our only demand for us was carbon fiber, and based on what we needed to make, we order that much carbon fiber, and we do that every 2 months. So I sat on 2 months of inventory that maybe needed to go to a third month at the best, and we still then reordered. So we didn't get caught up in the mess. We didn't play the game like everybody else was. And I think this year we're trending at about 15% up over 2022's numbers in revenue. And it's showing that this model is proving out to be possible and profitable in comparison. So it sucks that we're all tied to this because of decisions that were made. And I'm more inclined to wonder how we didn't keep, like, what have we as an industry done wrong not to keep the ridership that flooded into the market? So those people all bought bikes. They all created demand. What did we do wrong not to keep them? And I think that's where I'd like to spend my time thinking about things, because in theory, if we had done a good job at keeping them and including them and making them a part of the excitement that riding brings to a human, we wouldn't be in this position. I think we would have people upgrading to the next bike like we all did when we got into the sport. I mean, I'm not foolhardy to think that 100% of them would have been. That would have been great. But in reality, I think we lost a good number of people, and I would like to know why. That's where I'm focusing my attention.
Yeah. Do you think there are potentially then issues in the kind of early stages of joining the sport, like that the entry into the sport maybe isn't as good an experience as it could be?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's tough. I mean, we deal with it internally. I mean, we do a group ride, and it's hard for people to start riding. And it's not this isn't new. This isn't unique to a certain subset of people or unique to a demographic. Mountain biking is hard. It's always been hard. It's meant to have been hard. And I just think the immediate need for success squanders away the joy of learning. It's fun. It was an experience 10 years plus to get decent at riding a bike, and you were the last person in the group ride, and they would take off before you caught your breath, and that was part of the joy. And I think that the challenge has been forgotten about, and this need for no pain and immediate success with the onset of like e-bikes and whatnot. is good. It's helping for sure, because the hardest part is always like, oh shit, I got to go to the top of that freaking thing over there, and you're gonna like leave me in the dust. That basically, like, I can be needle shooter tomorrow with the purchase of an e-bike, which is great. So that's helping, no doubt about it. But I feel like we might be losing, again, the joy of the experience, and the joy of why we got into this and what the outcome is. And you know, instead of more laps, it's more like look around and enjoy the chats on the climbs, and the nature you're in and the time you're spent outside, instead of pounding out more laps. Because it's a short-sighted message that I think skews like maybe what mountain biking was at the core. It was about getting out with your friends, and you know, it was freedom to go places. And I'm the old guy here, and you don't see it, but I got a lot of gray in my beard. But I might be that cantankerous old guy, but it still is why I get on a bike. I could be riding any two-wheeled opportunity, and I'm excited. You never see a person on a two-wheeled machine with a frown on their face, hating life. It's a joy, the movement, the ability, and the freedom that mountain biking or a bike brings to a person should be relished and celebrated. And I think if we focus the attention on that, and always having fun, and accepting the challenge, and accepting the people that come into the sport are going to challenge, and also the people that come into the sport accepting the fact that they're not going to be the best for a good solid period of time, because it's going to take you time like everybody else. I feel like it might be a little more of a friendly environment. I think a lot of people feel measured right away. You know, you come on a group ride and you're measured as to how fast you are, or can you keep up? And yeah, it's daunting. I don't claim to have the answer for that as to what we need to do, but I definitely need to analyze it and figure out how we can make that a mutually agreeable space for both parties, because you know, people are already into it. They've been into it for a number of years. And then there's people that are entering into it, and we can't really forget about the people at the top, because I feel like that's happening with trail networks and whatnot. We're building so much green and blue trails that where does the people at the top ride now?
Yeah,
the opportunities are quite slim, and they're dying every day. So somehow we need to come to some kind of symbiosis where everybody gets a little piece of the pie and understands maybe how they fit into it.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance, I guess. Like, it's a sport, certainly in the gravity side of it, that like we almost define it by it being gnarly, but everyone's definition of gnarly is different. Like, I know that I've been on rides in certain areas where I'm like pretty scared and pretty, you know, really struggling on trails that these people find that's normal, you know. And then I might go somewhere else where the trails that they think are gnarly are like seem kind of tame to me. So there's this huge spectrum of what gnarly is. So we take what we know for granted, bring someone in and be like, yeah, come and have a go at this, it's cool. Like, but not everyone's definition is the same. So yeah, I guess just being aware of like skill set and experience and comfort and all that kind of stuff, and trying to help people have good experiences on bikes all the time, rather than just trying to scare them maybe. Yeah,
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, because we're at the downhill race. My kids are one of my kids racing, or he wants to get into it. So I was thinking back to when I was 14 and got into the sport, and what is gnarly? Gnarly for us was going to the elementary school where there was a flight of 6 stairs, and who was going to be the crazy person to ride down those 6 stairs on their hardtail? That was gnarly. Like, that was insane. We watched one of our friends do it for months on end, until one of us got the gumption up to go ahead and try it, and realized that, oh, okay, now we've conquered riding down the stairs. That I am now gnarly. Today, gnarly is, you're 14. Did you backflip the crabapple hits at Whistler? What are you? A rookie? It's like there's a massive gap between both of those outcomes, and the lived experience for young kids entering in, where they're nimble like little Gumbies, is I mean, that's amazing how quick they progress. But then you look at where the market is when you're 40 getting into it. And you're saying exactly it. You got taken down a trail where you're way out of your breadth, and your friends did it thinking you might be able to do it. I think as a rider, you have to accept your position and walk. Be okay with that. It's totally fine. Yeah. But like the Kaizen mentality, and I've really got into stoicism and whatnot lately, today I'm here, tomorrow I can be just a little bit better. And if I keep progressing, I can ride that. So don't give up. Don't feel like you're smaller or inferior. You have a place in this world too. On a bike, maybe you smash everybody up the hill and you win that. So there's always that's the beautiful dynamic nature of mountain biking, is because you aren't good at one thing doesn't mean you're not good at everything. You can be really good at riding up or riding sideways or riding across routes or riding in the wet versus the dry. Like, aim for something and try to perfect that, and then build your tool set out. And before you know it, in 5 to 6 years of that enjoyment of building your tools and your craft, because I think of mountain biking as a craft, then you're going to be damn good. And that's something that's going to make you better as a person, because look at what you've done. You've come from barely doing anything, this sport's too hard for me, to now I've dedicated myself to it. And wow, look at me go now. And what does it look like in another 5 years? And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not buy an e-bike and you're freaking Nino Shooter. That's the wrong message.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I like the way you look at it. It's a really nice lens to look at it through, man. Well, we'll come back to We Are One. I could talk about this stuff for days, because I think about a lot of the same stuff, but I'm kind of interested in how much the company's grown in the last few years, because the growth rate for We Are One has been pretty insane, I think. Like, where are you at now, staff numbers? It must be pretty big.
We grew, no doubt about it, like everybody else. Did we grow smart during COVID? No. We got caught in the mess, no doubt about it. The hardest time in business for me was October of last year. We were at 98 staff, and we had to reduce it down to just over 50.
Wow.
In order to kind of go with the cash flow projections and whatnot.
That's pretty brutal. As the person that's in charge of doing that, I guess that's horrible, right?
It was the single hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I mean, I feel for every one of those people, because I know they poured their heart into our company and they were a part of the success even today, and we'll always be indebted to them for that. The time and the service, and we wish a great number of them could be back, but the unfortunate nature of business is you have to keep the bus going in the right direction, and driving it off the cliff for the sake of everybody's well-being is just not possible, unfortunately. And they don't teach you this when you're leading, and because I've never been through it, I took it really hard. It was a very, very dark time for me. I don't worry about me. I'm more worried about the people. It sucked. And we switched on the Kaizen tap. We pivoted. We re-implemented a bunch of things, and it's made us a lot more effective. We've been able to operate leaner and smarter because of it. And the outcome now, we're up to 70 employees, and we're actually now growing, not for the sake of, oh shit, orders are coming in, we need more people. We're growing now much smarter. So we realize well in advance that we need a person. We define that person. Our hiring practices are getting a lot better. The company culture and fit is it's not dialed, but it's being sussed out in a manner that we ensure the right person is going to join our company and make this place better and be a part of a bigger whole. And now we're growing smart. We had to go back and redo our strategic plan, and we're going through it again because of the big shift in the economy in the last 3 to 4 months. But I think more now than ever, we've got a really good, solid amount of manufacturing power, and our employees are super engaged, and we're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, man. And you've clearly learned a huge amount on the engineering side over the last 6 or 7 years of doing this business, but it feels like you've learned probably even more on like the business and the human side, the culture, all of this kind of stuff. It feels like it's been a massive learning curve for you to get to where you are today with this, and like have a company that's working so much better together, I guess, as a like a cohesive bunch.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate you can see that, Chris. Honestly, it's been a ride, man. I'm not an MBA. I'm not a classic, off Wall Street CEO. I've done a lot of growth myself as a human, and had to learn really quick on the job, on my feet, and had to look deep within and understand what my role is here in this business, and how I need to be as a person for my people, how my people want to be treated, how we engage with them, what we can do to help and better the outcome of their lives, and in turn better the company, finding the mutual ground that we both agree upon, the direction of the company, how we message, how we talk to people, becoming a lot more professional, internally and externally. Like, there's been a ton of growth for me as a person since I started this business. I am not at all the same person, and I think I'm still evolving, and I'm hungry to be better. And it's a process, and I just make mistakes all the time. I'm proud to make them, because those are learning opportunities, and as long as I own up to them and I'm accountable to them, I'm going to continue moving forward in a manner that I really like to be a part of this story.
Yeah, totally. Have you found like particular things that have worked for you along the way? Like, have you used particular mentors or books? Or you mentioned earlier that you've been kind of feeling quite like aligned with the whole sort of stoicism side of things, but have there been particular ways that you've managed your own like personal growth through this?
Yeah, I mean, it's started out realizing that my network was pretty small when it comes to these kinds of discussions of a business or a high level. Like, how should I be? I never had a mentor, and that was where when you realize that, like, what do you do? It's a big question. So, going through and trying to reach out to as many people as I can, being super vulnerable and sharing my trials and tribulations with a lot of people that I felt I could share with, reading a ton of books, like gobbling up as much information that I can, and deducing how that might be for me, or how I might use that in my life. Trying a lot of new ways to be as a person, as a manager, as a CEO, failing, going back, reiterating and changing and coming back at it again, and just constantly trying to be better, and knowing that I wasn't good enough in the past, and I needed to be a much better person to be in this role, is what motivated me. It was a new kind of light that I needed to chase, and I took a lot of courses. I went to some consultants. Ended up kind of like dealing with some stuff from the past that had been bogging me about my racing career. Realizing who and how that impacted realizing how that impacted who I was previously to the help that I'm getting. A lot of that stuff has been helping, and I think that's just like putting it out there to people and saying, "Hey, I'm not doing perfect. I'd like to be a lot better. Can you help me?"
For sure.
And that's been a huge move for me.
Good work, man. Are there any particular books that like stand out? Anything that you've found really useful along the way?
So I stumbled across the two business books that I really liked was Brene Brown's Dare to Lead.
Okay.
Taught me more of like, how to interact with people, and taking the ego and the uncomfortable nature of a challenging conversation. and it was something that I got all of our leadership team to read, and we did actually a kind of a book club study on it.
Nice.
It really impacted me a lot. That was one of the biggest ones. And then there's another kind of a business strategy book called Traction. It's a guy by the name of Gino Wickman. Okay. Just reading through how each level of a company should be accountable to what the common goal is, is amazing. Phil Jackson's book, I forget the name of it, but it's where he goes through how he built the winning teams of the Chicago Bulls, and how everybody has a place on a team, and if everybody just recognizes their place on the team and plays to the fullest potential, how that team then wins. So how do you message that, and how do you bring that into the culture of the company and get people to really buy into the vision, which is important.
Definitely.
Yeah,
fascinating stuff, man. And you've deliberately, I think, looked like out of industry, certainly for a few roles recently. And the bike industry does tend, like, there are a lot of bikey people in the bike industry, but there are, I think, more and more companies hiring out of industry into certain areas. Was that a very conscious effort from you to bring in like certain skill sets?
Yeah, so although we are in the bike industry, we are very unique and very different than the rest of the bike industry. I think that a lot of experienced bike industry talent have been taught a certain way to do business, and it's not at all the way we do business, the way we function. And it's very hard for those people to come on and change all of those learned behaviors to become an effective part of We Are One. I've learned that from hiring and unfortunately having to let go a decent number of those people, that there's just no fit. There's no alignment. Something has happened in their past, and they're stuck in, and the change is too dramatic and too abrupt. And I'm not saying it's all on them, but it's just not a right fit, and you can see it. So I've just recognized that, and now focusing more on people that have manufacturing experience, have more related experience to what it is we actually do here at our core, which is make parts for the bike industry, and just reframing the talent search in that lens.
Have you found that helpful to have that, like, I guess it brings a richness, that different background, different experience, like it's there's a potential to leverage it, but there's also potential for those people to feel like they don't fit, or they're kind of a bit alienated if everyone's going out on a Thursday night ride together or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's the joys of mountain biking is, like I say, anybody that hops on one, I've been yet to have been privy to someone get on a bike and be like, nah, it's not for me, I'm not into it. They will eventually, be introduced to it. We'll take it easy. We invite them along and slowly absorb them into that riding culture as their talent gets to a point where they can, really, really give her. And it's so far hasn't been a big issue. And at the end of the day, like, we want a successful company. If we have it full of riders, great. If we can't be successful because if we can't be successful based on only being a rider filled company, then what's the point in being in business? So you have to make the right person that is for the job needs to be given that opportunity. It can't just be that you ride a bike. It's an Elysium and an idea that isn't true to a solid core foundation for a company.
Yeah, agreed. Well, it sounds like We Are One's in a really good place right now. What else is coming on the product side? So we've talked a bit about DH bar and stem stuff, but I think there's a few other bits and pieces in the works, right?
Yeah. So on the We Are One side, we've got a ton of new composite products, some blended composite and alloy products coming down. I know it's vague, but we feel like the time is now for us to introduce a hub into the market.
Okay, cool.
It's going to be a unique proposition. I think it's a unique way to market. It's the way it's done is different.
Okay.
The driver mechanism isn't. It's nothing world renowned or changed, but we focus all of our attention on durability, and that's what we hang our hat on. And I think it's just time that we do it. We've watched all of the wheel brands and the hub brands that we work with create complete wheel sets, and now are expanding their product line. And I've always felt like I had to be the nice guy, and we create and reciprocate. But it's become it's hindered our growth potential, I think, because of that mentality and that mindset. So as much as I love all of the vendors we work with, and I really will continue to push their product and love everything they do, I think it's also time for us to kind of like show the world what we have in mind as well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that, man.
Yeah, it's a fun little project that's underway. Again, new cockpit update and whatnot. I've been working on an ideation, very early stages of a dropper post idea and plan that I think I would feel is revolutionary. We got a new rounded out a rim project for the mid-road bike packing and gravel segment coming out. Yeah, it's a big market that we haven't played in, and I think it's huge. It's time for us to kind of show the people what we can do there and what we can offer for a unique product. And then expanding on the frame side. We've got a lot of work going on over there. The arrival's right for an update. You've seen the downhill project. It will eventually hit market, but there's a lot of R&D that we would like to learn first before that does. And we talked about gravel bike as well. So those will all kind of come to head. And then long term, what do we got going on long term? Possible crank development. We'll see. We're not. That one's kind of up in the air, but that's on the like early stages of ideation at the moment. So there's nothing in the R&D at the point right now. So
man, it has come a long way since we first talked in like 2017, 2018. It's amazing to see. Like it's obviously been a road with plenty of highs and plenty of lows along the way, but like ultimately you've grown something pretty special there, man. And it's ace to see more and more stuff getting done, more and more, talented engineers working under the We Are One banner and putting cool stuff out in the market, man. So congratulations on what you've done so far. And I'm really excited to see what comes over the next 5 to 10 years, because it sounds like there's a lot of cool stuff coming our way.
Oh, thank you, Chris. That's nice of you. It's been a road, no doubt about it. Getting a little emotional hearing that. It has been a road. We have a lot to be proud of, and I think we have a lot to prove still. We operate in a small, quiet corner of British Columbia, which makes it really, really nice to grow at a rate that not anyone's really paying attention to. And we're kind of in the dark corners doing our thing, and we drop out of the corner and put something on the market every once in a while, and it's fun to see the reaction. I don't suspect that we're gonna go anywhere soon and change that plan.
Nice one, man. Well, if people want to check out what you've got going on at the moment, where's the best place for them to look, or places for them to look?
The standard stuff, our website, weareonecomposites.com. We have Instagram, Facebook page, LinkedIn, for any hiring or anybody looking for a job. And we're always looking for great people to join the company, and for customers to experience a handmade in Canada part that we take great pride in putting in and on their bikes.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure catching up. I'll stick links to all of that stuff in the show notes, and I'll try and dig out some links to some of those books you've mentioned as well. So if anyone's interested in that, they can have a look. But yeah, all the best for the next few years. And yeah, we'll definitely have to have another catch up in 12 months or so and see how things have progressed.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the market's going to depict a lot of that, but let's hope the next time we chat, it's on a positive note, and everybody's thriving, and we're bringing those bodies back into the sport.
Fingers crossed, man. Thanks,
Right
Dustin.
on. Cheers, Chris.